So good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. I'm Hannah Vickers. I'm the Chief Exec of the Association for Consultancy and Engineering. So if you haven't joined us before, probably a new face to you on these webinars. So this is the first of a couple of webinars we're doing this week, looking specifically at the Construction Talent Retention Scheme. So today we're focusing on how businesses can make the most of the scheme and how to use it and give a really practical demonstration of what it looks like for you as a business to access and use the scheme. And we will have some time at the end for questions. And then later in the week, we're also doing a similar webinar, but looking at individuals. So again, this one is probably useful for you if you are coming in from a sort of HR professional, business leaders perspective. And then the one later in the week would be something that would be relevant to your employees, to those who you may be looking to redeploy, or even perhaps just individuals that you're aware of that may be looking for new positions within the sector during this period. So today is all about businesses. I said, and later in the week you will get a similar one, but just on individuals. Both of these will be recorded. So you will be sent the link to today's after the webinar has concluded itself. And therefore you'll be able to share it with your colleagues, share it with, again, the one later in the week, share it with individuals who might be affected by this. So what we're going to do is have two parts to the agenda today. So we are going to have a bit of an overview of what the Construction Leadership Council Talent Retention Scheme is. So we've got Stuart Young joining us from the BEIS Construction Unit, who is instrumental in the sort of development and sort of launch of the talent retention scheme. So nobody better really to talk to us about what it is and why it's such an important thing for BEIS to be funding and supporting for the industry at the moment. And then we've got a very practical presentation from Chris Jarman, who is the Chief Exec at Talent Retention Solutions, who are, if you like, the engine room of the talent retention scheme itself. So that will be very much a practical demonstration of exactly how you use it. And again, great to have Chris, because between Stuart and Chris, there's not much, I think, when we get to Q&A that you'll be able to ask that hopefully they won't be able to answer. Hopefully, I say that boldly. So just to do a bit of an introduction and a little bit of housekeeping. So firstly, to bring you up to speed on the Construction Talent Retention Scheme. So it is something which is new to us, so don't worry, you haven't missed it. It's actually something which was announced a couple of weeks ago by the Chancellor. So during his mini budget, he actually announced this, and it's a funded scheme aimed specifically at construction to help us during this period of disruption, to allow us to either temporarily loan or permanently redeploy staff between businesses. The great thing about it is it's been completely supported during its development phase by BEIS, so that's why Stuart's going to talk us through it. And actually, it's completely free. So we're hoping that this will not only help you attract and retain staff, but also it's going to save you some money, because you're not going to have to pay to use it. You're not going to have to pay for recruitment support or specific support for your individuals. So without wanting to steal too much of Stuart's thunder, that's a little bit of an overview of it. Just if I move on to the housekeeping now, if you haven't joined us for one of these webinars before, we've got a little bit of housekeeping here. So you're very welcome, whether you're ACE member or whether you're part of the sector more broadly, that's absolutely fine. You know, what we want is as many people as possible using this scheme, so you're all welcome. Just to let you know, I mean, you're better off listening through headphones because you won't get any background noise. You'll also see on the right-hand side of your screen that there is a chat panel where you can ask questions. So as we go through either of the presentations from our two speakers today, you may have questions that come up. So pop those into the chat panel, and when we get to the Q&A at the end, I will try and answer. I will gamely read out the questions and ask Stuart and Chris to answer them on your behalf. And if we don't get too many, you know, if we get so many questions and we run out of time, we will try and come back to you. So it's helpful in that if you can just let us know who you are when you're asking the questions, just put your name and your company, and we will pick up and get you a response later on. And the last thing, again, just to reiterate that we're going to be recording this webinar and uploading it to our website, so you'll be able to have a link that you can share with colleagues, and you can share with with others that may want to sort of have this kind of educational hour, if you like, on how to use this scheme, because really the purpose of this is to promote it. It's a free resource. We want as many people and as many businesses as possible using it, so there is no restriction on that. You'll get a link and you can do what you like with it. Put it on social media, you can share it with your friends, with your family, whoever, but really it's it's down to us to make this a success. So on that basis, I think it's probably now time for me to hand over to Stuart Young. So Stuart is Head of Stakeholder Management at BEIS. He sits specifically in the team that looks at construction. So whilst the Construction Talent Retention Scheme is part of Stuart's role, he also picks up a lot more broadly some of the challenges that face the industry. So I know at the moment starting to look at EU exit, but also heavily involved in things like the building safety reform. So quite a big role there for Stuart, bless him. But really pleased today that we've got Stuart with us, because as I said, he was absolutely instrumental in securing the BEIS funding for this, which is something we've never had in the sector before. So Stuart, over to you to give us a bit of an overview, please.
Well, Hannah, that's quite an introduction. Thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. Hope you can hear me. First of all, just wanted to sort of particularly thank, obviously, Chris and particularly Hannah. Whilst I was clearly the BEIS lead in this program, it was no small part due to the amount of work that Hannah and time that Hannah put into developing the scheme. So thank you for that. So just to give you a bit more detail really on the talent retention scheme. So it came out of the Chancellor's announcement back in July around kind of government support for industry moving forwards, and that included the announcement of a construction talent retention scheme. So really, how it came around was that there was a recommendation from the Construction Leadership Council that a construction talent retention scheme was to be established to kind of retain and redeploy staff in a centrally coordinated way. It was generally felt as quite kind of sort of short-term and fragmented to that point. There's also a survey done which kind of suggested there was around 690,000 jobs at risk in the sector by the end of the calendar year. And obviously we've already seen that start to materialise for, unfortunately, a number of redundancy notices, and we're also conscious of the forthcoming current changes to the furlough scheme. Linked to all this is we know that during the last recession, around 500,000 left the industry, and that will only become more acute due to EU exit forthcoming and obviously the continuing effects of post-COVID. So this scheme helps to stop that. So BEIS is providing just over £1 million of funding to support the startup of the scheme. So what the scheme's really going to do is going to do two things. It's going to facilitate the talent matching of an employee loans on a temporary basis between businesses, and it's also going to support redeployment of those individuals at risk of redundancy where they're overlapping competencies from adjacent sectors. So, for example, aviation, aerospace have taken quite a big hit. So those kind of sectors will also be eligible for it. So if we move on to the next slide, please. So this is really this is just kind of captures what I've just been talking about. So it's kind of about between companies. We're talking to different sectors at the moment. One thing to kind of highlight, it is free for everyone to use until the end of the current financial year. So if you're a large company, a small company, any part of the industry, it is free for you to use, and there are no restrictions. We're not allowing any recruitment agencies onto the portal. Post April next year, it will continue to be free to use for SMEs. Industry will fund it more longer term, and there are kind of currently discussions going on about what that funding model might look like. But for the current purposes, until April of next year, it's free to use for everyone. And just in terms of kind of sort of current statistics, we have well over 550 companies already signed up to using the portal, with over 200 vacancies and need 200 individuals registered to use the portal. So really quite good traction and really kind of positive sign up to the portal. In terms of how it's going to work, Chris will talk you through a more of a practical demonstration, but broadly there'll be two sides of the portal. There'll be an employer side and an employee side. So the employee side, individuals will be able to come on, create a profile, register their details, upload their CV, and kind of provide some kind of brief details about what part of the sector they're working in, where they want to work geographically in the country, and just some kind of general skills and background. Once their profile has been created, they'll be able to search for jobs. From an employer perspective, you will need to complete a light touch registration process. And once onto the portal, you'll be able to upload your vacancies. You'll be able to search, you'll be able to sort of see who has registered an interest, who has applied for your vacancies, and who might be kind of most appropriate for your vacancies. So it's a really kind of quite interactive, very easy to use and very easy accessible website. It also will include, I should have mentioned, it also will include apprentices as well. So that's both apprentices who have been made redundant, plus those who are about to be made redundant. So we could just move on to the next slide, please. So this is a list primarily of the organisations who are members of the Construction Leadership Council Taskforce I mentioned earlier. So it's predominantly around 15 of the CEOs across the sector, including colleagues such as Hannah this morning, and they have all kind of signed up to the programme and are championing it with their members and supply chains. We're very grateful for that. If we just move on to the next slide, please. So this kind of really reflects some of the timings I mentioned earlier. So the scheme was announced by the Chancellor on 8th of July, and it was formally launched and opened by Nadeem Zahawi, the BEIS Construction Minister, on the 24th of July. And we had about 150 companies on that call. There was also a separate call with businesses, which again, another 150 on that call as well. So it's a real kind of strong demand for the scheme. And there's various ongoing promotional activity as well with business groups, which I'll come on to in a minute. If we just, next slide, please. So the next steps now we've got stage one and the hard work out of the way. So there are now bi-weekly meetings of the Talent Retention Scheme Business Group, which myself, Chris and Hannah are involved with, and that's just kind of tracking the sign up to the scheme, ongoing communications, and managing any kind of ongoing risks and issues that might be cropping up, and kind of frequently asked questions so that we can sort of communicate those across government and across industry. We are also developing a talent retention scheme steering group, and that's going to shape the scheme's future development of the programme, and looking at things like kind of how do we reach out more broadly, and looking at the funding model as well. And we are currently in the process of agreeing the membership for that group. And once done, we will be developing and agreeing the terms of reference and a project plan for the group. There is clearly ongoing engagement with key government departments around the schemes. I'm having a number of conversations with, for example, DFT, DFE, DWP, combined authorities, growth hubs, local enterprise networks, and so on. So quite an intense engagement here. Ministers are very keen that we maximise the £1 million plus funding put into it. And ultimately, as Hannah said, this is only going to work if we really get this out into local communities and make people aware of this and they can access it. If we move on to the next slide, please. So as part of the kind of the steering group's work, we will be developing a medium-term communication engagement strategy. That could include a ministerial visit and reaching out to kind of more educational establishments. So for example, looking at how we might reach schools, apprenticeship hubs, National Institute for Apprenticeships, and those kind of organisations to really kind of penetrate the scheme far and wide. We are also continuing to grow the scheme with targeted comms as well. So organisations this week and last week who have made redundancies. So companies like Bellway and Saint-Gobain, and Robert McAlpine, not Saint-Gobain, Robert McAlpine, and kind of having conversations with them about how we can use the TRS to support them and their employees who are at risk of being made redundant. So if we move on to the next slide, please. So this is a set of what we've called early adopters. So really a set of kind of companies who have kindly already uploaded vacancies onto the portal, and they've been working closely with Chris and his colleagues to kind of have that intensive one-to-one support and be an early signpost for the scheme. We're very thankful for their support. Can you move to the next slide, please? And that is just the website address for you to register your interest. That's probably enough for me now. I'm sure I'll hand back to Hannah.
Thank you, Stuart. No, that was great and a really helpful overview in terms of, yeah, just giving us a little bit of history about what the TRS is and how it came into being. I mean, 3 things I noted down during that was it's really about businesses and industry helping our people. So this is something which, you know, you can offer to your staff. And you said some of those businesses who are going through that sort of reorganisation, redundancy consultation at the moment are using this to support their staff, give them somewhere to look, to, you know, showcase themselves, to look for other roles, and in turn that obviously helps the business, but it allows them to support their employees, because we're recognising at the moment there is that sort of perhaps short-term challenge versus kind of long-term skill shortage. So we do need to be, as far as possible, looking after our people, but recognising that, you know, businesses are having to make tough decisions. So that was something that, yeah, I noted down. It was good to see the clients supporting it and the government departments actually, you know, getting involved, because as we look a bit further ahead to the spending review, I suppose that's going to be quite important to them to have confidence that industry is fully resourced and ready to deliver. You know, it would be quite easy for them to look at the news and think, actually, there's a lot of redundancies happening, therefore there's not going to be the capacity in industry to deliver. So I thought that was positive, and appreciate all the work you're doing in that space to get them involved in the scheme. And lastly, you sort of touched on the opportunity for future development. So we've got this initial challenge around redeployment, but actually looking beyond that to retraining, to thinking about how we attract apprentices, how we reskill people from other sectors. There's huge potential here. So yeah, those were just 3 things that we've noted down. I'll just pause there because we're going to just to remind everybody that you can ask your questions at any point, so keep them coming in the chat function, the Q&A function on the right. James will field those and give them to me in the background like magic, ready for the Q&A session. So please do keep those coming in if there's questions about the TRS. And now I think we'll hand over to Chris, who's going to give us a really practical demonstration of, you know, if you're a business wanting to use it, what does it look like and how to use it. So Chris, over to you. Thank you.
Hannah, thanks very much, and thanks Stuart as well. I've put up on screen the portal as it's been set at the moment, and really just to give you some little background on how all this came about. This has really grown out of early developments that were made in the aerospace sector for Rolls-Royce in the post 9/11 period, and with a specific focus of trying to retain skills in sector, and has evolved over the years into a wider platform that supports general attraction, development and retention of people and skills across key sectors. What we have done is very quickly bring together a framework through which to support the construction sector at both an individual and an employer or company level. And what I'm going to do is just take you through an initial walk around the site and how to register and how to use the site and how to put up vacancies on it, and we can show it to you from both sides. But let me just take you in right at the top. If you come onto the website, which is at trs-system.co.uk/construction, it will bring you to the screen, or similarly clc-talentretention.co.uk. When you come to the screen, just simply click on register, and it will present you with 2 options. Obviously, individual candidates click on the candidate button to register. I'm just going to take you in now through the organizational registration. So we simply click on registration, and it takes you into, as Stuart says, a light touch, what we hope is a light touch registration process, simply capturing your key contact details and then details about the company, the organization. One of the first things we're keen to do is for you to attach your company logo, either in what's called JPEG or PNG format, and that will enable us to not only represent you by name, but through your logo in the system. And we then have a registration of the company name. Now, quite often, companies may have a number of individuals in the organization who will be using the system. And we just have a registration process here where we capture the company name. And if the company is already registered and you're just adding on new users, it allows you just to simply put in the name of the company. And you simply do it by typing in your name, and it'll eventually identify your company if it's already on the system, and you can simply click on that and it would take you in. If, however, it's not on the system, we just ask you to put in your company name over here. If I was going to put in something called Hampshire Limited or something like that. So it just allows us to capture the whole company name and ensure we have integrity of data. We don't have the same company spelt several different ways. So it's just a simple procedure we have for making sure we get the name right. And then you can put as many users of the system, whether they be recruiters or HR line managers, can have access to the system. We ask for your website details. We ask for your company postcode, the address. Doesn't need to be there. If you wish to provide it, that's great, but simply your postcode is enough for us. One or two questions we need to capture about the size of the company, turnover, which industrial sectors it represents, and this is just from a multiple select from a drop-down list. Indication of turnover, which is a range figure, and then back to the primary business activity. Now, this is something we just have worked with the sector to list, and this should cover the full range of top-level categories for primary business activity. And then under each, there will be a subset. So if you, for example, click architect, it will lead through eventually to an array of different options. I'll show that in just a minute. Company registration number. This is just part of the verification process we need as we moderate companies and ensure that they are bona fide sector companies. And just an indication, a confirmation that as a company you are recruiting PAY employees for the business. And a link to any primary trade associations that you are affiliated to. Again, this can be a multiple select from a drop down of different associations. And then finally, the usual confirmation of terms and conditions, data protection and privacy, and registration. I'm not a robot in registration. I believe it is fairly light touch. It's fairly straightforward. If you have any trouble at all doing that, please come to us. There are several points in the platform where you can simply come back into it and ask us the questions. Any queries you have, would be delighted to help. Once you have registered, you will receive an email just accepting your registration, and there is a slight time delay between completing your initial registration and us activating the account. This is part of the moderation process we go through to make sure that you are a bona fide sector company and you meet the criteria as a company, which is just, it's a simple way of us checking that we have the right companies, appropriate sector companies coming through. Once your system has been activated, you will then receive another email just telling you to go straight to login and allowing you to come into the system. And when you come into the system, I've just come in now as an administrator. So what I'm going to do is show you what it looks like from the perspective of a company. So if we have a couple of accounts set up here. So what I will do is now come in as a company, and this is the first thing you would see when you come into the main site. You will have a dashboard which will load up, just giving you a quick update of where you are and what you were last doing on the system. It shows, for example, any expressions of interest you've made, so you can see who you've already looked at, which individuals you've already looked at. It gives an indication of which of your any vacancies on the system candidates have applied for, and a quick view on candidates you might be interested in against your preferred criteria, and the last candidates you looked at on the system. And then you can simply click on construction portal candidates, and it will present to you everyone who's registered through the portal, all the individuals who've registered through the portal. And the mechanism allows you to search for them. There is a search column on the left-hand side. You can apply a keyword search across anything they may have written in their registration or on their CV. You can look against criteria, qualifications, any particular qualifications you want to search for, or a combination of all of these as well. It's a multiple select. The employment type, if people have come out of a graduate program or an apprenticeship program, you can search for people in those categories on the system as well. You can search by the industrial sectors that they've indicated they'd be interested in working in. So, for example, if I pick up civil engineering and construction as one of the search criteria, I can then see everyone who's indicated that's their primary area. You can multiple select, so I could pick up 2 or 3 different options. It's designed to be very flexible, so you can create your own search library of searches and save them. And then you can also alert them and alarm them, so that if there isn't anyone in the system matching the criteria you set, you'll receive an email when someone comes in with matching that criteria. You can also look at you can specify a work location, which is based on a really country, county, and country, region, and county level. So when people register, you ask them, where would you be prepared to work? Which areas of the UK would you be prepared to work in, or internationally? And it's done on this country level. So you could pick England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland. You could pick a region. And within regions, you can pick individual counties as well. So you can then move on down. If I just scroll down a little bit, and you can see the final options you have here. Type of employment sort, are people looking for part-time work or full-time or contract work? And then we have what we call the construction job family. This is the top level area which they have indicated they currently are working in, would like to be considered under. So having defined a search, you then press the search button, you can save it and create, as I said, these saved searches which you can access at any time from your saved search folder, and you can alert so that it sends you an email, or you can turn that off at any time or delete it. And it just enables you to build up a number of different search options as you look for people. And then as you are presented with a subset of people, you simply click on the view details to see what the individual has included about themselves. And here is a good example. You see each individual by the last company they worked with, top level information about their education backgrounds, what sort of work they're looking for, and preferred industrial sectors they've indicated, and the preferred locations. It will, if I click on view CV, it'll take you straight into their CV, so you can contact them directly through that or through the system. We encourage you to use the system to do this. And when you click contact, it will enable you to put directly in touch with them. And they will receive an email confirming your expression of interest in them. So that, I hope, just gives you a top level flavor of what it looks like. What I will also just show you is some of the additional options we have here. We can, as part of your login, you can review your dashboard at any time. You can review and edit your account details, the organization information you've set up as well. So you have top level editorial control here. There are a limited number of reports we provide as a sort of standard, and it's possible with our assistance we can provide further information if you have particular requests to look across the data set for particular skills, for example. And we have a vacancy management option. Now, the way that the system has been set up is that we can receive vacancies into it, either ones which are just manually added or ones which have been automatically loaded. There are a number of ways we can set up the feeds for the downloads. Or you can simply come in and quickly add a vacancy yourself. And I've just clicked on add a vacancy, and it's fairly straightforward. Explicit job title, salary, again, wherever there are ranges, we just ask you to select from the range. The location where the job will be based. We've also included an additional field here. If it's in a particular city or town, we just put a field in there for you to write where it is. So you may recall we come to county level, but often it's helpful just to know, particularly on a vacancy, exactly where it is going to be located. So we have an additional field there. Which industrial sector, which construction group, family it's in, and you can simply click on from the drop down again, and closing date. We set up the closing date information in a way which will enable you to automatically receive a reminder 7 days before the vacancy is due to expire, saying, do you want to reset the date, or just to notify you that after this date it will come off the system. It never actually disappears from the system. In your own login, you will be able to go back to any previous vacancies and reactivate them if you want. So we don't delete them from the system. They will just remain there for you to access at a later date if you wish. We often ask the question just to, if you want to have an indication, provide an indication that relocation might be available on the vacancy. If you don't want to constantly receive these reminders, and if you're a company which has 40 or 50 vacancies, you might not want to receive 40 or 50 reminders that vacancies are due to expire and things. So you can turn off the alert for that. And then it's very simple description of the job by a job summary, qualifications and experience, and any additional information. We've set it up so that you can just cut and paste into job summary altogether. That will give a top level description. It is very helpful if you can break it up into the 3 categories, and it just presents it much better in the vacancy. And then you have an indication at the end here of choosing how you wish a candidate to apply for the vacancy. So you can say we would like candidates to apply online, and if you click on that, it'll just allow you to put in the URL you would like them to go to. The way that the whole TRS program and specifically the sector portal have been set up is really to align with what you're already doing from a recruitment perspective, certainly, so that you can, we don't get in the way, we don't act as an intermediary, we simply present affected individuals to you and for you to be able to contact them directly. And similarly, they can apply for your vacancies directly and come straight into your existing processes and procedures and things. So it just allows us to really signpost people into what you would like them to do. So that would be just linking them straight into an online application. If you want to contact them, there's just a facility here where you can give them a number and be able to enter any message you want to give them. Call me immediately, here's my number, look forward to speaking, whatever you want to add there. And finally, if they haven't attached a CV, you can ask them to attach a full CV. This bottom option is if you have a PDF or Word file for the actual job advert itself, you can simply attach it as well, and that will attach into the vacancy so you can see it on screen. So that will allow you to add a vacancy, and as I say, we have the mechanisms for bringing them on automatically into the system. So that gives you a view from a company perspective of how you can come into the system, how you can register, how you can put vacancies on, how you can quickly search for candidates on it. And I hope that's given a top level view. What I will very quickly do is just show you a quick view of what it looks like from the individual's side as they see your vacancies, so you can see how vacancies present on the system. And this will just give you a feel for how your vacancies will be received. So what I'll do is just come in as an individual now, and individuals have their own top level dashboard. They can be reminded if they haven't uploaded their CV, they need to do so. They can control their visibility on the system, monitor expressions of interest that have been made by companies in them. It gives them a quick view of vacancies they might be interested in and the last vacancies they've looked at. And then they can come straight in to the system, and this is where they will see the vacancies, any vacancies you've put up on the system. The top level here is just literally chronological, so this will show the most recent ones that have come in. These have just come in this morning. You have the full search options down the left-hand side, so they can search the vacancies, they can save their searches, and when they see one they like the look at, they can simply click on it. Here's one from Gelder, which is offering apprentice roles for plasterers, bricklayers and joiners. So it's really fairly straightforward. We hope very intuitive to use, and I hope that gives you a reasonable view of how the system is currently set up. Hannah, I think it's probably good to pass back to you at this point. Is there anything else you'd like me to add to that?
No, I think that's great, Stuart. Sorry, great, Chris. I think we've got a lot of questions. So I think that's, in terms of a demonstration, that's been brilliant and prompted a lot of interest, shall we say. So I'm just conscious that, let's give time for questions, and if it's helpful in any of the answers for you to pop your screen back up at any point, then feel free to do that, because it might be easier to show some bits of what people are asking. So that's fantastic, thank you. And you can see, like I said, a lot of effort has gone into this and tailoring it and getting things like the job families set up for us. But there is always room for improvement. So as businesses start using this, I think there is if there are things that can be done to help develop the system, then we're very, very keen to hear those as well, because it is it's a first iteration, isn't it? And we can always add to it and tailor it and change things. So I think that's been brilliant as a demonstration. Okay, right, I've got a whole list of questions, which is great. Thank you. Keep them coming in. So let's start. Stuart, I think this is one for yourself. So we've got somebody asking about what is the link to educational establishments. Now, I know there's a bit of work underway on this, and then there are bigger plans, aren't there, for the medium term? So do you want to just update us on where you are with that?
Yeah, so we've started discussions with DFE on how we can link across to existing educational programs, and CITB are also kind of quite closely involved in the talent retention schemes development. So one of the things we're going to be looking at is kind of the medium-term comms approach, is how we actually kind of get into and reach into kind of educational establishments, make the links with people like Institute for Apprentices and different educational bodies to really kind of widen this offer out. So that's something that is very much being flagged, and we're very much kind of already starting to pick that up through the medium-term comms offer.
Mm-hmm. As you say, there's all sorts of interesting things we can do to link link the system up with other systems. But even in the short term, it's, as you say, very much comms around, because any individuals can register. So people coming off of their university courses or coming to the end of their university courses can register as individuals, start to see these vacancies.
We're also talking to DWP. So I've had a number of conversations with DWP as well about kind of linking to the various schemes they've got up and running, for example, including Kickstart. So that's all kind of sort of starting to develop now.
Okay, great. All right. Chris, we've had a question around the validation timeframes. Now, I know this is obviously, you know, we're a work in progress, but that sort of piece between initial company registration and, as you say, them being checked out as a legitimate company and going live. Can you just give an order of magnitude? Is that sort of days that takes? Is that weeks that takes? Could you just...
We try and do it as quickly as possible, hopefully even in the same working day. However, the way we structured the rush to get this up and loaded, we had a number of companies, a few hundred register, and we've had to sort of backtrack and catch up on those much quicker. So going forward, we hope to be able to deal with it usually within the same working day, 24 hours, if possible. If someone registers at 5 o'clock on Friday night, it might not be seen until Monday morning, but we'll do our best to get it up and running as soon as possible.
Okay, great. Thank you. That just gives an idea, doesn't it? And as you say, there's a little bit of kind of peaks and troughs at the moment while we're onboarding companies. Okay, right. Chris, there's a lot of technical questions. I'm just going to fire these at you, so be ready. So the next one is somebody who has successfully registered their business and they've got their own login, which is great, but they wanted to ask about if they wanted multiple users, so like, for example, another person in their HR team. Can you just explain that process? How do they register? And if it's easier to show us, then you can show us.
Yes, if I could have the screen back again, just to chat now, if you could just let me have access to it again. There we are. I can just show you very quickly in here where we sorry, let me come in. When you come in to register, what I'll do, I'll just come out of the registration. It's great being able to go in as an administrator, but you have a sort of slightly complicated way in and a slightly complicated way out. But if I come right back out and show you again from the URL directly, I just put that in. At this point of registration, additional users can come in. They come into the same registration route, and the top level there, your account details, is just primarily for their name, email, position, and phone number. But in the company details, this is the bit where you need to. If you're already registered, you simply key in your company name here. So, for example, if I put in Winchester Consulting and click on that, it then enables me to add additional people, individuals, to the system. So I've been linked as being part of this company, and so the next stage is just to be able to add the information about the individual user. So what the reason we do it this way is because we have to just make sure a company like Rolls-Royce, for example, can be spelt RR space PLC, or Rolls-Royce, or Rolls-Royce, or Rolls-Royce Civil Aviation. You can have, any company can have numerous ways of it being written. So it's a very simple but slightly tedious approach we have right up here to make sure we capture the name of the company. Once they've done that, they can then just complete. They don't need to complete additional information about the company. We already have it once it's been confirmed, so they can just come straight into the process. Moderation has already taken place, so additional people coming onto a company will be able to be let through quite quickly if all the criteria matches up. So I hope that's answered the question on a long-winded way.
No, that's helpful to see it. So you go into as if you were registering for a business, but you select your existing business. And I guess that puts them in say into the right side of the portal so that they're acting as a business rather than acting as an individual, doesn't it? That's why it's important to go in that way. Okay.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay. Great.
And
okay. Again, just moving us on because we've got quite a number of questions, which is great. So somebody's asked around tailored searches, and in particular, if you can search by keywords. They're talking, I think, a little bit about qualifications, so things that we have around kind of Revit, which is quite important skill, qualification, competence, if you like, for design work. So they're sort of, could you just explain how that works, either using keywords or if you're able to also create a more tailored search if they're hunting for candidates? Can you just talk us through that one?
Yes, there is, as you probably recall, if I just come back in as a company, there is a keyword search which is straightforward keyword searching. So if you have a particular qualification you're looking for, you could simply put that in. If it's a consistent, if there is a category which we can build into the system which allows you to search more quickly, we can create it as another one of these drop-down searches. But literally, if you're putting in a particular qualification or a particular string of words, they can come in here, and that should take you straight into, I don't know, if I just put nuclear in here and just see if anyone has just pick up the term nuclear across there. It'll show wherever someone has mentioned nuclear. So here's someone, that's rather an odd word to use, but I just thought I'd try it. But so this candidate has included nuclear in their word. So for a particular qualification string, it should be very helpful. If that is a regular request, we can hopefully build it into more of a drop down, which would go beyond just the top level qualifications here. I hope that answers.
Yeah, and there's the opportunity to develop that. But I mean, that functionality is there at the moment, like you say, with the keyword search. So that's really helpful. Thank you.
It is indeed. And I think, as you said, Hannah, with all of these things, we're very keen to refine them further for the sector. So if there are particular requests for particular searches or skill sets, we can build that in a more sophisticated way.
Yeah, and that's something that so ACE and me really will be sitting on the development board. So I think there's a piece there for my members to, yeah, if there are things that you would like it to be able to do, I'm happy to sort of collate those up and bring them to the development board to get prioritised, depending on how big it is. If it's something simple, obviously you can engage directly, but if there's something which would be, a bit more fundamental, then I'm very happy to collate those up and give that feedback. Okay, right, just got a few to get through, Chris. Sorry, you're very much in demand.
That's fine, absolutely fine.
So we've got somebody asking around automatic vacancy uploading and whether that's possible. So you showed us how to do it if you were just putting vacancies on one by one and linking to an employer's website. But somebody's asking around whether you can link automatically and whether it interfaces with things like a Broadbean, which is a new one on me, but I'm sure means something to you.
Perfect.
Around sort of automatic vacancy uploading. So good luck with that question.
Absolutely. No, that's one of the main providers, and we Broadbean is one we work with, on behalf of a number of companies. So Broadbean, eQuest, any of the main conduits into the system, we will send you. If you contact us, we will send you the specification required. It will be coming up on the website at some point. We haven't got it there, so if you just simply contact us and we can talk through what would be most suitable for you and how we can capture. We can go right the way down to scraping vacancies off existing sites, so there is no mechanism for bringing them in, but we prefer not to. It's quite time consuming to write a scrape, but as this gets underway, we will be able to cover all needs, I hope, as we go through this. But just contact us through the screen, the website, and just ask us to give you a call, and we'll make contact with you and link up properly.
Okay, no, that's great, and that's particularly, I said, if you've got sort of quite a high number of vacancies. Okay, someone's asked a question about the levels of roles. So you've shown, I think, from some of the demonstration, that you've got apprentices on there, but can you just kind of clarify? Maybe that's from the role families or similar, but what, you know, what levels of people and candidates and vacancies have you designed it for? Are you expecting onto the portal?
We are really, again, it's being refined, and we've refined it again this week with the sector to include the additional categories. I think we have 46 sort of subcategories of apprentice. So when an individual registers on the system, they can be seen by they are familiar with the terminology, the language as they register. They can indicate not only what level of apprenticeship they're doing, but also which area it resides within the construction sector family as well. So I hope that will enable, I mean, it's generally, it's a subset of trade and manual groups. So at a top level, if you were searching for people who click in trade and manual groups, and then there is a subcategory on that as well. So it hopefully will enable you to search for people, and it hopefully allows candidates to identify exactly what part of the construction sector they've been working in.
Okay, as you say, so it's sort of, and Stuart, from BEIS perspective, there isn't, you know, you're quite keen that actually this is open and, you know, supporting everything, isn't it? From apprentices all the way through. There's no, you know, there's no restrictions on the funding. There's no restrictions as far as BEIS is interested in. It's more about the sector as a whole. Is that right?
Yeah, so there's no restrictions at all. It's open to the entire industry, and we have not restricted to anyone. So it's basically everyone's eligible for it.
Yeah, okay. And I think that's quite, it's, you know, it's quite important given the government rhetoric at the moment around supporting young people, that actually it is for everybody, and we make sure that people don't think it's a sort of experienced only, because even people who might be coming on as individuals who maybe they're finishing their university degree, maybe they're finishing, you know, school or college, actually as individuals they can register, can't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and we're refining that still further, Hannah, to capture this whole new grouping. I've just quickly come on, if it's on the screen here, this is the category. So for example, if an apprentice registered on here, they would probably click on trade and then they can select which part of that they're in. So it's a fairly, I think there are 46 different levels in here, and they can just indicate which part of it they come from. So we can capture them exactly where they are, and we can make that visible to inquiring companies. So what I've done is come into the individual registration here, which I didn't run through with you, to let you see how they can be defined in that sort of area.
Stuart, just on that, it's probably a good time for you to just give us a bit of an update on your work with DWP, because I think, again, that probably speaks to us getting the kind of broadest range of candidates. You know, can you just sort of tell us a little bit more about how you're kind of trying to direct candidates onto this with your work through DWP with the help of your dog?
Yes, apologies. I've got two little Shih Tzu puppies here who tried to bark at the opportune moment. So I've had quite a few conversations with DWP colleagues, including sort of job centres, job coaches, and really sort of their directors, and really just sort of kind of widening the offer out to their partner teams. So they've been really kind of quite positive and quite productive. So they're very keen to work with us and keen to kind of push the offer out to their kind of people, that all the kind of stakeholders they work with, the local job centres, to really kind of push the offer out. So I'm literally in the middle of emailing them about saying to us at the moment. So very keen to work with us. So all the job centres and the kind of job and the coaches at the front line should either have or be getting the details of the scheme shortly. And if there are any kind of questions, obviously do come back to me, but they're very keen to work with us on this.
Okay, no, that's great. And as you say, that then hopefully will be diverting people into the sector. So it's very worthwhile, even if, as you say, they're, you know, sort of entry level jobs, that the businesses put them on there, because actually those would be the sort of things potentially for new people coming into the sector that they might be interested in. Okay, right, last question, Chris. This one's for you. This is about if someone hasn't got, if they're a business, they want to use the system, but they don't necessarily have any live vacancies at the moment. So maybe they want to go in and look for candidates or look at what candidates are on there. Is that, is that possible? Do you want to just sort of talk us through?
Absolutely fine. They would simply come in, register in the same way. Once you've gone through this registration and once we've activated your account, you will then be able to come into the system and see candidates. What we have found is that the system has been particularly useful in other sectors as well, in enabling particularly smaller companies to look for people. Often, many of the companies may not put up a vacancy on the system, but they can be very active in looking for people through the system. And we also remind the affected individuals when they come onto the system that it's not just a vacancy job board, that by being on it, you can be seen and contacted by interested companies. And so as with candidates can apply for vacancies even before they've been able to complete their CV and get it up on the system. And as with companies, they can come onto the system and they can contact candidates even though they may have no vacancies actually on the system itself.
Okay, brilliant.
Hannah, there was one final thing I just I didn't mention. I don't know if I've got time to quickly just show it, but we have in the system, we have facilities for what we call microsites as well. So it is possible to see and find out information about companies. So this is very much from the candidate side. It enables individuals to see and find out about a company if they don't know about it. And part of this process is when they're on the system. I just logged back in as a
okay, yeah,
individual.
Pop your screen back up.
And yeah, and then we hope you can see. So when you're logged in individual, there's also this area where you can click on. I know we have one up. We're gradually building microsites as we go along for participating companies. I know there's one up for Balfour Beatty at the moment, which just allows candidates, individuals to see and find out about an organisation, and it allows the organisation to promote themselves through the website as well. So it will be particularly useful, I think, as we move into the area of being able to offer opportunities for apprentices and graduates coming on. They can find out about the company. Companies can represent themselves under different categories and attach videos or images to their site. So it's a whole additional area for participating companies to be able to promote themselves through the site as well.
Yeah, and as you say, definitely really relevant for people who might be new to the sector. Yeah, that we wouldn't know the companies, and try and find a company that's the right fit for them. So, okay, no, that's really valuable. And as you say, that's all
exactly
sort of
all in one place.
Yeah, exactly, and that's all sort of tied up with when you kind of onboard, or the companies, you give them that opportunity, don't you? And then there's a bit of work obviously on their side, but hopefully it's worth it because they get a better presence then on the system. Okay, great. Right, so we're very much almost out of time. So I mean, just in terms of next steps, so I said we will circulate a recording of this today so that you can watch any of it back, but you can also share with your colleagues. I think alongside that, there is certain guidance notes. So there is a, if you like, a leaflet that explains some of what we've discussed through today for businesses. That I think we can attach to that email, and equally there's one for individuals. So if you are wanting to use the system to maybe support individuals in your business that are going through that redundancy process, there is some collateral, if you like, you can use with them to encourage them and signpost them to register on the system. So it's a way of supporting your employees as much as looking at putting your own vacancies up. So there's all of that which we will circulate with you. Obviously, the important thing is to take a note of the registration website you'll see in the bottom left-hand corner here. But again, we will circulate that to you. So if you've not already registered, you've got access to be able to do it. And then equally, we've got the event for individuals that we're going to be running on Friday this week. So, whether that's employees in your firm, whether that's just colleagues or friends that in the industry that would really benefit from getting themselves onto the system at this point in time, then please do promote that. And it's an open event, so through your comms, through your social media, please just get the word out, because we really want as many candidates getting onto the system as possible. So the more we can do to help them on that journey, the better. So conscious that because of the number of questions, which is great, we've gone slightly over. So I'm just going to say thank you very much to Chris and to Stuart for joining us. Taking us through that, huge success to have got it this far. We've had some really good feedback in the chat as well about the quality of the system. Lots of technical questions, which is great because that means that people are wanting to use it. So it looks like we're on the right track in terms of developing this. But yeah, just to say thank you again very much to the panelists. Thank you everybody for joining for this hour on the webinar itself. And please do make the most of it. This is government money. We don't get this opportunity very often, if ever, to get something for free. So please, please, please take advantage of it. Help us to make it as successful as possible. And I look forward to seeing you all on it and your vacancies and your staff appearing on it. So thank you very much, everybody, and take care. Bye.
Thanks, Hannah. Thanks, all.
Cheers.
Thanks, Hannah.